Hey everybody, Ramsey here for the Rajathon YouTube channel, and I am really excited to do a book review on Foundryside. Foundryside is a novel by Robert Jackson Bennett. Sometimes I have trouble saying that. And I really enjoyed it. I'll put a picture up right here. It was one of the books that I had heard from Angela at Literature Science Alliance. She's a great channel. I'll link her down below. She said she really enjoyed it. I found it very entertaining. Let me tell you about the author real quick. I wrote down Robert Jackson Bennett also wrote the Divine Cities trilogy, which I haven't read, and 5 standalone novels. Brandon Sanderson was very excited to blurb this one because he wrote a long and detailed review on Goodreads talking about the magic system and how he enjoyed the world building that had been set up in this book. I totally get it. It's very Sanderson-y, if that's not a word, but the way that it's set up, the way that the characters have done bad things, the characters have done things that you would consider big problems, right? But they're not bad people. And it's a very Sanderson way of writing a dark story that's not grimdark. And I think Robert Jackson Bennett tapped into that, and that's maybe a lot of the reason why I enjoyed it so much, because there was redeeming characteristics in all of the characters. Even though they'd done things that were very bad, there were very redeemable ways that you can see them coming back. Our main characters, not the bad, the obvious bad guys. They're still obvious bad guys. And there's a line there. And I think in fantasy, we're seeing a lot of that where you don't know who's bad, who's good. In this one, you clearly knew who the bad guy was when they were revealed. And then you understood why that person was the bad guy. And I like that. I find it very enjoyable to read a book like that. So main characters, Sanchia, she is the for sure main character, and then the alternate main character who gets the other majority of the reading time is Gregor Danadil. I struggle with complicated names. This is very Italian inspired, it felt like. Maybe kind of like Venice. You kind of had like the piers, and it kind of also felt like a marshy, swamplandy kind of thing as well. I don't know. It had a lot of canals, a lot of things like that. And then you have these merchant houses that, with this magic system, basically that's why I'm holding the pen, you write, and while you're writing, you're convincing in this language of the Hierophants, you're convincing stuff that it's not what it is. So like if you had an arrow and you wanted that arrow to act like it was falling 5,000 feet immediately, like this arrow had been falling out of the air for 5,000 feet immediately as you shot it out of a crossbow, you could write that onto it and convince that arrow that it was doing that. And then it became like a cannon, basically. You could do stuff like convince an object it was falling straight down. The minute it was, Gregor has a weapon that does that. Like immediately he pushes a button, and like the hammerhead of his weapon comes off, and it thinks it's falling straight down at like 100 miles an hour. And so he pushes this button, and all of a sudden he's got this thing that's like busts holes through stuff, right? And then Sanchia, we learn right away, she's got like this plate in her head that allows her to hear things that have been, they call it scriving. She's able to hear what the scrivings are. So immediately she's, first page, she's a thief, and she's going to steal something, and she'll like walk up to a wall and touch it and realize like where that wall has a weak spot, and she can like walk up and find that weak spot, sneak into a building. It gives her like a really great thief ability, but it's broken because she feels everything. Like it's hard for her to wear clothes, it's super hard for her to touch people because she learns so much about that person when she touches them. She wears gloves, that way she's only getting the feedback and information from that piece of cotton. That way, when she picks up a pen or a knife or something like that, she doesn't get that item's backstory like immediately. So it's made it very hard for her to be around people. Like a handshake for her would be really, really hard for her to deal with. And so that's kind of alienated her, and it's a big part of her story. Really what she wants to do is get this thing taken out of her head, and that's why she's a thief. But also she's very good at it, and she prides herself on being good at being a thief. Also, we have Orso, Ignacio, and his apprentice Bernice. They're really, really big characters in the second half of the book. I'm not going to tell you much about them, but they're in there. I liked Bernice better than Orso, but Orso had a big role in the story, and it feels like he has a big role in the next part of the story, and he kind of has like a really easy character development moment, and that was well done, I think. Maybe a little bit too easily done, but it was satisfying. I liked it. I liked the way that they took his character. He had to deal with some things, and he's really the person in the most power. He was kind of like the power over their shoulders as they were going through this world and stuff like that. So, and then there's Clef. Can't tell you about Clef because it'd be a spoiler, but he's my favorite character in this book. I loved the way that he interacted with Sanchia and their friendship, and how they became friends very quickly. And so Clef is my favorite character in the book, but he's basically a side character. He's if I told you more, it'd be a spoiler, so I'm not going to go into that. But yeah, he is my favorite character in the book. Don't know if I said it already. Gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. One of the things that I thought was a little forced was near the end they kind of like created a love story where it could easily have waited till book 2. It was, I don't know if it was to make the book longer or if just to say, hey, there is a love story in here. It didn't need it. It was really, or it felt out of place. I'm not saying there shouldn't be a love story, but if it was weaved in better, I would have enjoyed it more. It was basically like at the end, like, oh wow, hey, I'm glad to see you, smoochy smooch. And it wasn't, that part for me was probably the most disappointing part in it. It's not that there was a love story. I like a good love story, but just one of my complaints about like Robert Jordan was like his love stories, like Lan and Nynaeve, in book 1, all of a sudden they're in love at the end of the book. Like there was no lead up to that, and that's kind of what I felt like with this one. I felt like if they would have waited till book 2 and kind of just did a couple little like things and said, you know, hey, and I think they kind of, I'm not going to go into that. I'm not spoiling something for you. So read it. I do feel like I got book 2 on NetGalley, and I'm going to read it pretty soon. NetGalley basically was like, hey, you do book reviews? I'm going to give you 10 books. So trying to catch up on those. I've got 2 that I'm working on right now. And then I really want to get to this one, Shoreside, book 2. So got this one through my library. Got a digital download on my Kindle. Coolest thing in the world that they do that nowadays. And I'm going to quit rambling and sign off on this one. But Foundryside, 4 stars. Enjoyed it. Magic system was confusing, but I think we're going to learn so much more about it in book 2. And I'm assuming there's going to be a book 3, and we'll actually really get a good idea on what the magic system is supposed to do. How basically it was given to us in a way that says, hey, there is a magic system. I'll explain it to you later. So good book. Thank you. Talk to you guys later. Thank you, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.